Have I tried challenge quest at episode 4? I can only imagine how bad it will get. Get your 4 factories running? Hey, nice chase. Okay, so catching up to what happened previously in the last session. Basically, we escorted Ren back to the guild. Tita is watching over her, well, hopefully. And we are looking for her parents, on top of dealing with the threat letters across the different places in Grancel. Because the embassy's got a threat letter, Grancel Castle, and the Liberal News Service, all connected to the signing of the Non-Aggression Pact between the 3 different regions around the world here. So, last session, I mean, I took my sweet time, but yeah, we got to the Calvardian Embassy. We read through the entire series of the Blue Knight, and boy, that reading session took like an hour. It was a fun little read though. Kind of cliche, but I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff sometimes. I mean, props to them for writing out that much in general though. Because normally, you wouldn't see a in-game story series run on for that long, especially for a side quest. Because it was a side quest from Blue Blanc himself. Or regarding Blue Blanc, where he stole a thing, he's trolling us, find clues around the city, and surprise mini-boss fight. And, what was it? Yeah. Foreign months, Will of the Blue Knight. Blue Knight, being the Blue Knight, or... Oh, no, wasn't it called Dawn Knight? Yeah. The Dawn Knight series, Foreign months, and basically foreign meaning the embassy in Grancel. And why in Grancel? Because we're, story locked into the city, so there's no silliness going on about going through either gates or anywhere else, really. But yeah, we got, in terms of main things to do, I'd say we pay a visit to our boy at the Liberal News Service. Let's go visit Niall. Yeah, going off topic, I finally got off my butt to basically go on a run again. Try to get some more exercise for once. And oh boy, I really shouldn't have put off running as much as I did. Because I got a lot tired quicker than I usually did when I actually remembered to go on runs. Which is pretty sad. But hopefully I can try to make... I mean, I keep doing that, but then it's hard to make it a habit until you really try. But, I mean... I'm basically retaking my first step for like the millionth time at this point. But hey, it's something. But yeah, now my legs feel pretty sore though. Hey, Chief, it's been a while. What do you need today, Is this with Neo? Yeah, I got some questions on some guild business. Is he back from Rouen yet? Yeah, he's back, but I think he stepped outside to do some coverage. Figures. He always does seem kind of busy. Well, that's our job after all. Don't know where he is, but I heard he'll be back by the evening. Okay, got it. Thanks. Seems we should start somewhere else. Yes, this will probably be the last place we can visit. Alright, so I guess with how the story's progressing... Oh, now I understand. That's why they ordered it like this, because we went to the Calvardian Embassy first, now we have to go to the Arbonian, and then Grancel, and then Liberal News. Okay, so I guess like there's no funny business of doing things potentially out of order depending on how the story sorts itself out. Okay, so we have to go to the Arbonian Embassy next then. But before that, I was told that we can find the next 2 Gambler Jack volumes this chapter, now that I've done the Blue Blanc side quest. Now, I still have no idea where it is, but I was told that it's somewhere here. Around Gransel. But yeah, I guess, well, hope you guys can go get a drink or a meal or something, cause like, I'm gonna go exploring again. I will find it. I will get those ultimate weapons or whatever that reward is for finding all the volumes. What is that? Cheers sip. Wait, is that the, potion, Monster Hunter potion icon? Ah, it is. Oh, hey, that reminds me, that Cheernom had the, ration icon as well. That was pretty nice. Oh, it still has it, oh. Why do I think it was changed out at some point? Wait, anything else I did today? I also watched Nero's run of what was the full name again? Yo something Muso, the Yomu Toho fan game. Pretty good, and a lot of T-posing. Thanks to the couch, and I saw Frub in the corner there, joining in on the T-posing as well. That good so much. Still playing a game sometimes. Yeah, I think I mean, I haven't kept track of what Chino does recently. I mean, I saw on my following page that he was doing a just chatting thing while driving. But yeah, I think he goes back to every once in a while, I can imagine. You saw it? But yeah, the Fury speedrun at ESA was pretty hyped too. Whoops. Although I think I missed out on the thing because I think they met the incentive where he does some boss fight blindfolded. I forgot the runner's name, sorry. Yeah, I think there was like a boss fight blindfolded incentive. I should probably look back at the VOD and check that out sometime, because that sounds pretty cool. I know, I'm gonna go finish drinking my coffee because I think it's getting a little too cold now. Not sure what boss. I forget what it was called. Wait. Oh my god. The mom and child. Oh my god, they've been lost since the or they couldn't find each other since the beginning of this chapter, and now they're on the opposite ends. Mom, I'm over here. Oh, god damn it. That's adorable. Yeah, I think the boss... Was there a boss called the Edge or something like that? Or, I don't remember. Something like that? Start with an E, I think. Should have left it out one. What about second lunch? Probably gonna be playing Dragon's Dogma. How is Dragon's Dogma? I've seen people play it a couple times. It looks... I if I remember correctly, actually, who handled the PC version? Because I heard the PC version is like really good. Or the port, I mean, yeah. There is the edge. Yeah, I think it was that boss blindfolded. Cringy to some degree. But is it like purposefully cringy, or how's it like executed in the cringiness or whatever? It isn't. It's an experience. How's the gameplay again? I don't remember. Like, after hearing the good things about it, I was thinking about... I mean, there's a lot of things I think about picking up, but... Yeah, it was on my mind to potentially pick up someday. But I wasn't sure about going through it. It has a Western feel, but has anime tropes and stuff, which makes it feel kind of weird. Culture clash? Oh, that's pretty cool. It's like DMC, but limited? Is AI helping you? How competent is the AI? They are good, man. We simply aren't finding them. You can jump on monster stuff and stuff. Oh, you can like climb on monsters and stuff? That's pretty cool. AI is pretty competent too? Ooh. What the heck is the Gambler Jack volumes? So far it's nowhere in the West Block or Harbor. I'm pretty sure there's nothing around here. East Block... I'll go do another once over for that. Better healers than fighters. And hold their own? Wait, so there's an old lady keeping an eye on you? Wait, how about the... Oh wait, no, didn't I check the landing port already? Yeah, I think I already checked this place. Okay. So... Wait, what lady? No. I mean, I'm pretty sure you just say the same thing. Can we still go back in the arena now that it's been opened? Maybe something came up. Ah, no, they reclose it. Okay. I'm glad to see that they don't have any missable stuff in an area that they'll permanently close off then. Yeah, no, there's nothing else because we checked the Calvardian embassy, and the store, I would imagine, doesn't have anything different. Yeah. And I don't think there's any interactable stuff here where you can pick up a Gambler Jack volume, right? Although, given the books and stuff around here, would you happen to have it in stock? Liberal news, EP charge. Nah. Wanna know how to make delicious tea? Well, I would ask if you could teach me. Those tomatoes are expensive. Don't think we need to buy anything else here. Yeah, nothing in the East Block. And I think I already checked out the exhibit when I finished the side quest. So there shouldn't be anything new here. And I don't believe interacting with the signs or exhibits will really do anything. So it's all of the NPCs, which I don't seem to see. I was told someone holding a Gambler Jack volume involved having to talk to them several times, but maybe that's in a later chapter. I mean, there's Tita and Ren, but no, they wouldn't have something like that. Okay then, North Block I think is clean too, but if that's the case, then actually no, I don't think I checked out the rooms here. Anyone staying in here? Don't mind me. Wanna collect some books. Is no one staying in this hotel? How is there no business here? Oh my god. Usually they'd have like one NPC or something around here. They're just Agate and the receptionist, but... Oh, good sir? Damn it. Maybe it's on an NPC that has only recently spawned in after I reached a certain point, instead of the NPCs that are going about their day already. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, so I suppose that cleans out everything here. Maybe I just check this out one more time. Yeah, no, it's just this guy and his girlfriend or wife that really loves martial arts. Yeah, those two are just talking about a meal. Yeah, we already saw their interaction a while back. Nah? Ah. There's no other side quests, right? There's just those three? Yeah. Anyone in the guild? No, there's no one on the top floor. Alright. Excuse me. Fisherman's Guild we checked out, weapons store, Orbital shop. The boys don't have anything. Get the question. Huh. Yeah, wait, yeah, we are story bound here. So, I guess there's nothing in Gransel. Or maybe there's something in the Gransel Castle and the embassy. But just to double check, let's see if there's anything in the sewers. I highly doubt anything would have changed that would implement an NPC or something with the Gambler Jack. But, kinda to check it out. Yeah, I'll probably take it as a no. I know where that leads. Yeah, nah. They wouldn't put something like that there. Okay, so let's just continue with the story then. To the, Erebonian embassy then. And then I think when, we can finally leave the city, that's when we can probably check. Because I would assume at this point the Gambler Jack volumes are either in the Royal Villa or in the Two Gates. Or maybe somewhere in Gransel Castle. Oh yeah, that's Calvardian Embassy. Oh, hello again. Lord Ambassador Cranog and Major Vander just returned. Ah, perfect timing. Can we go in then? Sure. Welcome to the Erebonian Embassy. Do remember that the embassy is Erebonian soil, so be careful, yeah? We will be. Ooh, this place fancy! This is quite the building. Whoa. The place definitely matches the Calvardian Embassy in terms of fanciness. Grandiose yet powerful at the same time. Very imperial if nothing else. It is a stage upon which the Empire can parade its influence and power. Alas, that the actors are unequal to the set dressing. You realize Lord Cranog would hit the roof if he heard you say that. Ah, my most, bosom companion. It has been an age. Are you well, dear Mueller? Yes. I would be better if I could cut you in half and be done with it. I told you again and again to ensure we are constantly aware of your location, and you... but 'tis a tactic in the in the war of love. Did you know absence make the heart grow fonder? Estelle Bright, you have my thanks. I can only imagine the trouble this idiot's been causing you. Actually, he hasn't been too bad, I guess. He's been really well-mannered, comparatively. Well, ignoring the lunatic. I presume you have business here at the embassy? Yes, sir. We would like to speak to the ambassador. Estelle explained her desire to meet with the ambassador concerning the letter. Oh, that letter, right. I had been somewhat concerned myself, but I'm surprised the guild is acting. Is the request from Brigadier General Bright and the Royal Army, I take it? Technically, yes, but we're trying to investigate it as neutrally as we can, you know? Nobody's guilty until proven, that kind of thing. A commendable mindset, no doubt why he chose you. Very well. I shall introduce you to Lord Ambassador Cranog. I suspect you'll find it easier to gain his trust if I do the introductions as opposed to a certain, someone. Really? Thanks, Mueller. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, sir. Oh, wait. You really have so little faith in me? You, thought we had faith in you for this? Hey! If you introduced us, you probably want to have us kicked out. Sorry, Olivia. The sting of being forsaken. Sting of the truth, maybe. Lord Cranog is in his office on the second floor. I should go announce your arrival. Give me a moment. We'll wait then. And look for some Gavlu Jack vines while we're at it. I love the bullying. Given the stuff you had to put up with, yeah, Olivia kind of deserves it. Oh, hey, it's been a while, Olivia. Are these your guests? Indeed, one could call them guests, but I'm more inclined to think them as my soulmates. Bruh. Our days spent together have been so tender, so sweet. I feel to merely call this force love does a disservice to our bond. Is that not so, Estelle? Oh my. Wait, does that mean you dumped Mueller? Hold up! My head hurts. I think I'm starting to understand Mueller's suffering. I wonder who Olivia is really targeting. Everyone? Everyone that breathes? What do you think? Is Mueller still his one and only? Or has he moved on to greener pastures? Why, you only need to ask. No, thanks. God damn it. The closest imperial city to Liberal borders is a place called Parm. I'm actually from there, by the way. It's close to Boas, which makes it convenient to return home from visits. But it's not so convenient to visit the imperial capital from there. There aren't any public scheduled liners in Erebonia, so I had to switch over to the railway system. Hey Olivia, I heard you went to the hot springs. I'm so envious. I've been working until I'm dead on my feet, getting ready for the signing ceremony. Hey Olivia. Oh, yeah, I read that. All the books in this room were published in Liberal. To learn about someone's nation, start with their culture. Feel free to read them, but please put them back where you found them when you're done. Oh. Carnelia series. Geo and study. Well, speaking of studying, are you guys up for another reading session? Oh boy. I'm gonna need a sip of water. We're gonna read through the whole thing. The Imperial Chronicle. Okay, time out. 10 pages? The Dawn Knight averaged 4 to 5 pages per chapter. Hold up. Oh no. I mean, there's less chapters, but they doubled the page count. Oh, god damn it. I stood there, upright in the front of the revolving door, scuffing the heels of my boots against the ground. Pulling slightly on the collar of my trench coat, I dropped my chin and gazed at my partial reflection in the curved glass. Aside from my short-cropped hair, I wore a modest-looking double-breasted leather raincoat and a pair of a special order steel reinforced boots. Okay, someone's fancy. Both of which, at first glance, appeared to be the most common of common apparel. But hold on. Yes, they were in fact much more than the naked eye could detect. He's one of these guys, isn't he? My ordinary average appearance was of just as much importance today as it had been on any other day in times past. Not far off, the sound of footfalls echoed rhythmically, like the steady beat of a pendulum swinging back and forth. As the throngs of those coming and going moved quickly along a cobblestone avenue, enveloped and tinged silver by the morning mist, at times the calling voice of a street peddler disrupted the steady flow, but as soon as the hawking cry faded away, it would resume its course. Each morning that I found myself setting foot in the Imperial City, I also found my surrounding to be unchanged and stained by the same somber tone of gray. Snatching up a magazine from the underarm of a street vendor, I tossed the few mirror into the left hand poised expectantly behind his back. The Imperial Chronicle, the magazine I read so often that even the ink bleeds were familiar. Roughly flipping open its cover, I scanned the headlines along the top of the monochrome pages of its monochrome pages. Then suddenly, my breath caught in my throat. At the very bottom of the local news page, I found those letters, that sequence of characters which I had not heard nor seen since the time of that life-changing incident. My eyes instantly gravitated to the spot, and for a time remained fixated. Ein Selnat. The very meaning of those letters became lost to my senses as I stood motionless, my gaze fixed on the same line of text, until it all seemed to coalesce into a single blotch of ink. After a few seconds of blank comprehension, my vision settled, and I wrenched my eyes to the beginning of the article. As I began to read, my memories verged onto a single point in my past. Then suddenly, or slowly, started to run in reverse, heading for that fateful event 3 years prior, when this name was first introduced to me. It was on an afternoon all those years ago, not on a day unlike this one, where the capital was overshadowed by its typical gloomy aura. I was a little younger than now, 22-year-old boy, 22, who stood silently in the front of the boutique door as usual, double-checking his appearance before lightly treading over to Mick's Imperial factory. It was on this day that it had been arranged for me to receive a new job from Mick, the shop owner himself. Although he was a drab, middle-aged man, I, being the ornament enthusiast I was, I'd found myself as one of his few regular customers. I headed down a dank alleyway, and after passing through a partially rotted wooden gate, I could see the soft glow of the flickering orbital light just outside of the entrance of the factory, whose structure was halfway below street level. I first began receiving jobs from Mick about the time when dissension began to occur in society over the 100 Days War. It was during this period that relations between Liberal Kingdom and the Empire were at their worst, and the importation of ordnance had become almost non-existent. Conspiring with underground elements and planning a smuggling operation, Mick made me out to be his accomplice in crime. But the job which I received by his hand was none other than that of the courier. Being nothing more than a commoner in my teens at the time I met him, and a juvie devoid of any connections in life besides, I naturally jumped at the opportunity without a moment's hesitation. And yet, even after relations with Liberal had returned to some degree of normalcy, I realized I was in no mood to give up my specialty, which focused mainly on the delivery of stolen goods. The reason being, there was no job out there which could bring in the kind of mirror this one did. With an unrefined and inconspicuous appearance, I had countless times before hidden items of various sorts in my hats and trousers and made my way hither and thither between the borders of these neighboring nations. And though to my delight my wallet had become increasingly laden with a bounty of monetary rewards, I routinely changed my alias as a precautionary measure. So much, in fact, that these false names had built up into quite a list over the last few years. I had been known as Phil, the frivolous Rooney, the trickster, even Chris, the coward. However, Mick had always called me by one name, Toby. Toby? Okay. This was the identity that I used for my initial job, and the one I liked above all the others. That was chapter 1. Oh my god, everything does average to 9-10 pages. Oh no, why can't you actually have a short story? Oh boy. Chapter 2. The train station. Hello there, Toby. You've come at just the right time. Greeting me with these words, Mick shuffled slightly in his seat behind the counter. The baked confection he had been eating was ever so carefully placed atop his lap to prevent it from falling onto the floor. He smacked both his powdered sugar-covered hands together with a clap, and a cloud of white particles puffed into the air. The smell of sweet spices and baked apple pervaded the dimly lit shop. We had an item dropped off no more than a few minutes ago, he continued. Turning in his seat, Mick reached back and snatched up something in old magazine paper from off the shelf, tossing it to me. Knowing full well I wouldn't get any sort of answer, I asked anyway, "What do we have this time?" Laying out my railway and airship tickets, Mick ignored my question and said, "Make sure this gets to the same place as always." In his slow drawl, he added, "It would be in your best interest to keep your involvement to a minimum by leaving the business side of things to me and focusing solely on getting the job done, Toby." This is totally not ominous. He leaned back in his chair and let out a deep sigh. The balls of his fingers kneading the bags under his eyes, then once again, his large hand extended down, the unattended cake resting on his leg. Before the sweet treat could reach his watery mouth, I had already made my way out the door of his tiny shop. As I walked, the waste paper bundled package bounced around the inside of the folds, inside the folds of my bag. By the feel of its shape and weight as it beat steadily against my side, I concluded that the object in my possession was probably just more swag. It didn't make me nervous not to know what it was that I was carrying, for I'd done this type of job many times before, and no matter what kind of trouble I found myself wrapped up in, I'd always somehow managed to come out unscathed. In truth, my experience on the job had made me tough. I'd become well versed in the art of oral magic. And it was that when I laid eyes on that rough-looking trio at the station, but no more knots of uneasiness in the pit of my stomach than was necessary for someone of my abilities. The platform for the train bound for Liberal was a bustle with passengers awaiting its eventual arrival. Seeing that the benches were so crammed full of people that they could have been very well been a tin pack of packed sardines, I resigned myself to standing near the entrance. As I patiently waited for the train to come in, twisting my body in order to move the bag over to my other shoulder, I noticed the figures of two men, heads bent together and conversing in an inaudible tone. They just stood beyond the ticket gate, right about where the horse head of the Imperial emblem lay embedded in the ground in a grand mosaic of tiles. After a short interim, another man approached and joined in the conversation. From my own perspective, this is one ragtag group that I most certainly couldn't give a passing grade to based on looks. All three extremely well built, sported the same haircut. To put it mildly, I stuck on the crowd like a bunch of sore thumbs. Making sure to avoid eye contact with them as they glanced in my direction, I slung my bag over to my shoulder and ever so calmly reached my hand to my pocket and ran the tips of my fingers across the surface of my orbment. A woman's voice reverberated within the walls of the station, notifying the passengers that the train had arrived. The low rumble of an orbital engine could be felt in the distance, and after a few moments, a large vehicle was seen rolling up on the shoulder. I muttered to myself, "All is well," but the sound of my voice was drowned out by the din of the massive machine. Brakes screeched, and a flash of black light reflected off the surface of the giant iron beast as it came in sliding across the rails. The immense vibration in the air emanating from the moving locomotive at its epicenter let me know that the orbital engine had been put into full reverse in order to decelerate and bring the train to a grinding halt. While being shoved to and fro by the waves of impatient travelers flooding out from the waiting area, I was swept toward one door of a passenger car. As we passed by the conductor, I caught a glimpse of the ticket gate. The men who were once there were now gone. The thing remained was a profile of the horse, made of glossy tiles, flying back at me in a shade of deep crimson. totally not being tailed. Representative of the Sethian Church. The train barreled on, almost flying through the thick veil of fog. Droplets of water splattered against the window glass, extending out like transparent veins, and continued to wriggle back and forth under the pressure of the swiftly passing wind. Placing the temple of my head against the glass, I stared blankly down at the tickets in my hand and rubbed the two of them together between my fingers. I would be traveling by train to the border city, far south of its imperial cousin. Then to reach Liberal Kingdom, I would have to transfer to an airship. Both of my tickets were first class, but not the highest end seats available. The passenger car was nearly full, or was nearly at full capacity. Excuse me. But for some peculiar reason, no one had seated themselves in the space next to mine. As I mused about the empty seat, it occurred to me that Mick may have purchased a spot ahead of time, leaving it vacant on purpose. There's no doubt in my mind that he was being... also, this is 12 pages, oh god. Paid handsomely to make sure this job was done, and done well. Will you be traveling to the Liberal Kingdom, sir? Right around the time my trip was on the rails had passed its halfway mark, I was met with a sudden question, and set up with a start. My eyes searched for the one who asked it. There, standing in the aisle, was a single woman with a radiant complexion, beaming down at me. She wore a coat with overlapping buckles, secured slightly above her breast, and appeared to be in her mid-30s, gingerly bending her knees and pointing her finger at the empty seat beside me, and she asked, "Do you mind?" With a tilt of her head, she indicated that the rear of the passenger car was swirling smoke saturated the air, and softly muttered, "The smell from the tobacco smoke is just dreadful." Wordlessly, I nodded and dragged my bag from its place on the floor, moving it over to the window opposite to my feet. The woman expressed her thanks and delicately sat herself down in the seat next to mine. For being a perfect stranger, she talked on endlessly, and I appropriately reciprocated the conversation by saying I was on my way to the Liberal Kingdom on a business as an orphan specialist. Her story that she was on a mission of mercy for the church and had an errand to fulfill in the border city. Just so you know, people sometimes refer to me as sister, she went on. Of course, it's just a nickname. She recrossed her black leather boot-clad legs and let out a sort of suppressed titter from the back of her throat as she made mention of this. Sister Carnelia was her nickname. We continued on in this fashion, subjecting ourselves to a variety of idle banter. As the time drew on, the sun overhead began to dip in its arc. Crossing the celestial meridian and descending into the west. Each time the moving train cleared a grove of trees, the entire vehicle, passenger cars and all, was bathed in a warm apricot hue, flooding into the cabins, creating a majestic spectacle. I gaped at the coruscating effect, and in doing so, locked eyes with Sister Carnelia. Right at the moment the brilliance of the sinking western light seeped into her rich brown irises, causing them to give off an exquisite rubescent sparkle. The glimpse made me wonder if the origin of her nickname was somewhat related to the color of her eyes being likened unto the luster of a polished carnelian stone. The train gradually began to decelerate, and Sister Carnelia returned to her original seat in order to collect her bags. As a matter of habit, I checked my bag in orbit. I found both the junk paper-covered package and the magical device fastened into my trousers' inner pocket by a series of chain stitches, exactly where and how I left it. A woman's voice came over the intercom system announcing that the train would be arriving on schedule and that rainy weather was to be expected at our destination. At the conclusion of the announcements, a number of disappointed sighs could be heard coming from along the row of seats. Raindrops pattered against the windows outside as the looming silhouette of the overcast city came into view. The station's signal lamp emitted an angular light, which was scattered with the refractive effect of the falling droplets of water. Then came a spine-chilling metallic sound, followed by the jolt of the orbital engine's reversing thrust as the locomotive at the front of the train lurched to a halt. Over the loudspeaker came another announcement asking passengers to ensure that they did not leave their package or baggage behind. And with that, several people stood up, crowded into the aisle, watching a station worker in uniform as he waved a small flag amidst the falling rain. I picked up my bag and rose to my feet. I crossed paths with Sister Carnelia as I attempted to step into the aisle. But when she tried to step aside to allow me room to pass, she suddenly tripped and fell forward. Grabbing onto my shoulder for support, she picked herself up and with an embarrassed smile let me by. I gave her a short bow in line with general etiquette practices, then headed for the exit ahead of her. Following my lead, Sister Carnelia shuffled along closely behind me, so close in fact that it felt as if she would step on my heels. Something about it didn't just feel right. Or just didn't feel right. Instinctively sliding my right hand into my pocket, I searched for my orbment, but the brass feeling I had grown accustomed to was nowhere to be felt. Wait. Oh boy, pickpocketed? In an instant, I felt my arm being twisted behind my back by someone or something with incredible strength, the sleek sound of a blade being unsheathed, and the warning prick of the tip at my back. Indicated the seriousness of the situation. Okay. I have what you're looking for, Toby, whispered Sister Carnelia in an almost inaudible tone, her lips barely moving just behind my right ear. Let's not try anything either, shall we? I'd hate to see your afternoon spoiled spoiled anymore than it's going to be. To know that she meant business, Sister Carnelia slightly altered the angle of her grip on my wrist, causing an explosion of agony, sent sparks flashing behind my eyes. Oh. Okay. So who hired Sister Carnelia to steal the orbit from him? Also, whoops. I meant to pick chapter 4. Don't worry. We're only a third of the way there. Chapter 4. Human Fodder. Sister Carnelia spoke to me in a tender tone as she sent a wave of immense pain rushing through the whole of my right hand. I won't have any trouble with you, now will I, Toby? She asked. Far from eyes just brimming with tears, I nodded my head in consent as the salty streams of water ran down my face. Satisfied with my answer, she loosened her grip. I felt the pain vanish as if it had all been some sort of illusion. With a wry smile, she further added, "Don't get me wrong, Toby. I've been sent here to protect you by the goddess herself." That is what she said while instructing me to keep my eyes focused on what lay beyond the window glass. But there was something about the way she pronounced the last syllable of my name that really rubbed me the wrong way. Little by little, the line of passengers slowly began to flow out of the train car. Prodded on by Sister Carnelia, I inched forward, while keeping my gaze on the platform through the passenger car window. Down the stairs which led to the front ticket gate were figures of those men earlier this morning. He's been tailed. The three thug-like passengers who had been loitering near the large horse head emblem of tile at the Imperial Station. A muffled laugh echoed from her throat as she, too, noticed them. "Well, isn't this a warm reception party you've got going on?" Knocking my head back, I quietly pleaded, Give me back my orbment." Sister Carnelia said nothing. Members of the crew bid us farewell as we stepped through the exit to disembark through the train onto the lead-colored platform below. Angrily, I thought to myself, "Damn it! What's wrong with these fools? Can't they see what's going on?" I shut my eyes, halfway to protect them from the drizzle whipping against my face, and I unhurriedly descended the wet set of stairs, a half pace at a time. Sister Carnelia moved along behind me at precisely the same length of stride. Below, the group of thugs waited expectantly at the bottom of the stairs, waited for me, no doubt. Contemplating the rate at which I was going, I ultimately believed it was only a matter of time before I would be handed over to the enigmatic group. I caught sight of their soured faces as the distance between us grew smaller, and felt the heat of my left hand tightly gripping my bag in intensity until my palm began to sweat profusely. Hitting the midway point of the stairs, Sister Carnelia suddenly whispered in my ear, "Keep your eyes on the ground, Toby." I did as I was told and cast my gaze down onto the tips of my boots, stained to a darker shade by the rainwater. Then, right at the moment I let out my breath, I felt a deep sense of pressure against my shoulder blades as I was forcibly shoved forward. Droplets flew from my saturated fingers, and my world turned upside down as I tumbled down the stairs and slammed back first into the group of hoodlums. With a muffled crunch, I felt the painful sensation of my ribs crumble under the weight of my body, and then return to normal from their severely compressed state. Two of the seemingly military men who were hit as I toppled down the stairs, like an avalanche unleashed upon a pair of young saplings, absorbed the transfer force and were thrown into the large puddle underground nearby. Shrieks erupted from startled passengers nearby, more shrill than the high-pitched sound of the railway brakes on a locomotive. As my world spun wildly about me, I lay there, the chill of the tiles seeping into my back. With a concerted effort, I rolled my eyes to the left where my arm remained in an outstretched state. By some act of the goddess, I managed to keep my tight 5-finger grip on the bag I'd been carrying. In an effort to get up, I slid into a prostrate position, keeping my chin in contact with the ground, making a low visual sweep of the vicinity as if my life depended on it. I noticed the military-like physiques of the men had vanished from view. The only figure I saw standing above me now on the platform was that of Sister Carnelia, and on her shoulder, as if she were merely hefting a sack of grain. As if she were merely hefting a sack of grain, was one of the men. Oh, so this is a third-party situation then? There's those men, and now Sister Carnelia with her own, like, motives and connections? Huh. Alright then. Turning in the direction where the train sat in its motionless state, she lobbed the unfortunate man down onto a set of empty rail tracks. By this time, I had risen to one knee while keeping the other planted firmly on the ground in a half-standing position. The world in front of me was still swaying, undulating in my wavering eyesight. My head slowly rocked back and forth with it as the double vision of Sister Carnelia's boots approached me. Then with a strong grip, she tugged on my hand. For some reason or another, when she did this, I failed to notice the unpleasant feeling that her hand wrapped tightly around mine brought. "Let's go, Toby," she instructed in an authoritative voice. Nearly dragging me, she pulled me to my feet, and before long we were hightailing it out of there. The onlookers made quite a commotion as they moved hastily out of the way in a determined attempt not to be caught up in the middle of our flight path. The bag in my left hand swung helplessly, knocking against my thigh. After clearing the ticket gate, Sister Carnelia let go of my hand, but a sickening, slippery sensation came with it. Looking over at her, I realized that the stomach-churning, slimy feeling on my hand had come from the bright red blood which stained both of hers. I peered back over my shoulder in the direction of the platform as I continued to run, but the figures of the 3 men who had been waiting for me at the station were nowhere to be found. Chapter 5! Emissary of the Sabbath. I sat staring at a partially melted lump of butter on a stack of cold pancakes. Cold pancakes? Aww. Picking up a fork, I poked at them. After turning the top one over, I daubed the milky yellow substance between the rubbery layers. In doing so, my interest in what sat atop my plate faded to nil. A hanging lamp dangled overhead, making a sporadic buzzing sound as its honey-colored light flickered, creating jittery shadows and distorting my vision within the inn. The pouring rain outside didn't appear as if it would let up anytime soon either. Bringing my face closer to the window, I peered through the film of water flowing down the outside of the glass as I tried to make out the dimly lit avenue. Although the station house sat right at the end of the road from where we... From where we were lodged, all that was visible was the side of the structure, obscured by a shadow, which prevented me from being able to see the platform. "There's nothing to be worried about," said Sister Carnelia as she returned, wiping her hands with a handkerchief as white as newly driven snow. Stretching the square strip of cloth out, she sat down and placed it neatly on her lap like a napkin. Then in a reassuring tone, she added, "We've seen the last of them for a while." Huh. So, wait, she did say that she was supposedly by the goddess trying to protect him? I wonder if she was possibly hired by Mikt or something like that to protect him along the way, given the... Because he said he was gonna handle the business side of things, which... I mean, I would assume he wouldn't really need to say anything like that. So maybe he implied that he might have bought protection for him? Just in a confidential way without letting him necessarily know? I don't know. Watching the tips of her fingers move as she smoothed out the wrinkles in the piece of fabric resting on her legs, I was hit with a sudden flashback. Reviving the awful sight and coppery scent of the sticky blood which had covered those hands not more than a few hours ago. "How can you be so certain?" I asked, still having more than a few reservations. "Because that's how these type of crime syndicates work," she replied, clearly seeming to know all the answers. The waiter came and set a plate in front of Sister Carnelia with a soft clink as the base of the glassy dish tapped lightly against the hard surface of the table. After scooting the meat-laden porcelain plate closer to her, she licked the sauce off, now covering the tips of her fingers in an almost sensual way. Oh. Sickened by the bloody image already in my mind, and now the sauce, I placed my fork aside and leaned heavily back in my chair. The city outside began to fade into shades of gray, and by the time Sister Carnelia was finished tucking away her steak, it had completely sunk into the darkness of the night. I questioned her again. "How can you be so sure that no one will come after us?" Using a piece of black crusted bread to wipe up the last drops of sauce, she answered, "Because that's how they function. One unit consists of 3 people." Then, as if remembering something else important, she added, "That group, that was after you, they're Jaeger Corps." Ah, the Jaeger. Oh my god, this guy's Jaeger's coming after him? Oh god. Good freaking luck. Upon hearing this, I recalled some of those men at the landing port some time ago. Only the most renowned and skilled mercenary groups have the honor of calling themselves the Jaeger Corps. Or at least that's what Mikt had told me about. They were soldiers of fortune who were said to relentlessly follow the flow of mirror wherever that happened to lead, and they would stop at nothing to get at it, even if it meant spilling blood. Warhawks, mercenaries without borders, and a group never to get involved with is what Mikt often had a habit of saying about them. Instinctively, I slid my foot forward and checked the location of my bag with the tip of it. "It's quite simple, really," Sister Carnelia explained as she reached for a dessert. "You, Toby, are carrying something that's apparently got a lot of people on edge, and someone's hired a Jaeger Corps to take you out." "But it's not me they're after, it's what I'm carrying." "It's all the same," she retorted as she gulped down her cup of tea in a single breath. "They're going to kill the courier before even thinking about searching the contents of his bag. A butcher kills a cow before someone grills a steak, not the other way around." Lecturing me all the while, Sister Carnelia took a glossy tallow-handled knife in hand and sliced into her apple pie. The powdered sugar sprinkled on the flaky crust danced under the golden light, while the stabbing pain of guilt raced through me, just above my gut. Unexpectedly, I began to think about what Mikt could be doing at the moment, but my short period of rumination was cut short when I saw Sister Carnelia's hand stop cold. Glaring into the darkness, eyes focused and intent like a hunting dog's, she tossed something shiny onto the table and rose to her feet. There it was, my ornament. Where are you going? Without pausing to answer my question, Sister Carnelia expeditiously fastened the buckle of her coat. You got good taste, Toby. One at a time, she set her heels on the chair and tightened her bootlaces. Using the full capacities of that orbit is no small feat. I think even most bracers would be in a real surprise if push came to shove with you in the ring. Growing ever more impatient, I asked again, where is it exactly that you're going? That's none of your concern, came the answer. Suffice it to say, I will be seeing you again on the morrow. And with that, Sister Carnelia disappeared through the door of the women's restroom. As if exchanging places, two other men entered the restaurant. They walked directly at the table at which I sat and stood before me. Flashing the emblem on his chest without making any sort of eye contact, one of the men said, "We're from the Bracer Guild. I apologize for disturbing you in the middle of your evening meal, but you'll need to come with us." And okay, now the Jaegers, now the Bracers are getting involved with Sister Carnelia hiding and doing whatever? Oh my god. So we got like mercenaries, basically what's like the FBI essentially on his tail. Like some unknown faction with whatever Carnelia is involved with, unless like the church itself is involved with this. Okay, we're almost halfway there. Ascertaining the inner workings. My orbit empty bag and package wrapped in old news magazine paper were laid out neatly on the table in front of me. The bracer sitting opposite to me gazed alternately at my face and the items on the table as if trying to gauge my reaction to them. Constantly rubbing his chin between his fingers, it appeared to me as though he were making an effort to display his right hand, fit snugly within a leather gauntlet. I had been led to the second floor of the lodge by two men, and then, after they had painstakingly checked the layout of the floor, I was taken to the furthest room from the stairs. It occurred to me that the reason for the use of the makeshift space was due to there being no guild branch nearby. First man to sit in front of me was a lanky one. He told me his name, but I soon forgot which one was Clayton and which one was Pavel. About the time I had finished being frisked, the bracer wearing the gauntlets, Clayton or Pavel, whoever it was, returned and whispered something in his partner's ear. It seemed as though they were trying to locate Sister Carnelia, but having no such luck. After much probing on the subject of her and the Jaeger Corps, after relating everything I heard from her on the train, I turned the conversation around and, playing the role of the victim, inquired into her past history, though strictly speaking, I guess I was in fact the victim. Her name is Selnet, Ein Selnet. Read aloud the lanky bracer from a pocketbook he held just below eye level. Originally a constant member of the Jaeger Corps, her present affiliation and activities are unknown. In short, added his partner pompously, she's not the type of person any upstanding citizen should be getting involved with. He reached out his gauntlet-clad hand and picked up the object bundled in scrap paper. Checking my reaction all the while, he unwrapped the paper, laying it out flat in the center of the table. Its contents turned out to be a lump of metal ingrained with some sort of clay-like substance. I blurted out, I was on my way to a research institute with the item when everything happened, and threw in the address of some non-existent client for good measure. The bracelet took notes, making sure not to leave out any details of the conversation, that to dispel any lingering suspicions, I had agreed to stay with them under their watchful eyes for the night. The next day, I also found myself inclined to go along with them to the nearest guild branch in order to file a report about the events that happened back at the station, but I had no qualms over the matter. My greatest concern at the moment, after all, was not running into any more trouble. I awoke as the sun came up over the horizon and day broke. With the advent of the peaceful morning, I sat up in bed and breathed a sigh of relief. The bracer who stood guard the previous night were no longer present in the room, but the sounds of their voices could be heard echoing out in the hallway beyond the closed door. Slipping my arms into the sleeves of my jacket, I felt a sharp pain in my right elbow, which brought back vivid memories of the woman from the day before. Oh my gosh, she snuck into their room. Suddenly, a feeling of uneasiness came over me, and, still half undressed, I began adjusting my orbit. Oh wait. No, I guess she didn't sneak in, but it's just... okay. After opening its back cover, I used a thin piece of tan doeskin and started plucking out the quartz installed into each slot. It didn't take but 5 minutes to insert them into each different slots to rearrange their configuration with a set of light magic. with a set of light magic as my base. Light magic? He's like a space magic specialist? One by one, I replaced each screw until finally the metallic panel was in place. As a feeling of calmness set in, I rolled back over in bed. It was at that time that a tall woman appearing to be a maid opened the door carrying a basin of hot water for the sink, with which guests could shave and wash their faces. After placing the small steaming tub at the table, the woman went quietly about her daily task of removing the bed linen. Finding myself shooed from my own bed, I reluctantly headed toward the basin when, just beyond the open door, I caught sight of two shadows cutting across the hallway in succession. They're here! They're here, I heard myself mutter as the low tone of my suppressed voice reached my ears. With only a bar of soap in hand, I remained unbelievably calm, as I quickly shut and bolted the door. Then pondering my next move, I stood still with my back pressed up against the wall. On the other side of the wall, on the other side of the hardened clay wall, the brief clamor of fighting ensued. Bracers and the Jaegers? Fumbling with the chain attached to my hip pocket, I grabbed hold of the ornament I had adjusted just barely moments before. It was two braces versus the two others I had seen moments ago. Throwing myself into the mix with the two men from the guild would definitely put us at an advantage from a numbers standpoint. However, when I turned again to face the door, the voice of self-doubt came percolating through my closed lips in the form of a distant mutter. Wait, there were only two of them? If Sister Carnelia's words are to be believed, then one unit consisted of 3 people, not 2. Again, I questioned myself inwardly. Then, where's the third? Mocha S. So is he gonna come crashing through the window? The hair on the back of my neck stood on end as I realized my plight. Something swung down over the top of my head, catching me around the neck, and the next instant I was flung to the ground. From the corner of my blurred, spotty vision came the inexplicable view of a woman with demonic bloodshot eyes standing over me, trying to wrench the very life out of me with every twist of the sheet. And oh, the maid. Clutching my ornament in hand, I activated it and fired off a burst of magic while lying half asphyxiated on the wooden planks of the room floor. The destructive vortex of compressed air sliced deeply into my hip. At the same time, the woman to double over before forcibly blowing her to another part of the room. Swirling shreds of whirling linen, flecked and sprayed with fresh blood blasted out through a gaping hole in the wall where a closed window once stood, leaving nothing behind but shards of broken glass and a frame rent beyond all repair. Man, this is building up. The death of a friend. Aw, come on, don't do this to me. We're only halfway through. Wheezing as I breathe in, the sound high and whistling as the air fought to make it through my constricted windpipe. Still clutching tightly to my ornament, I unwound the sheets from my throat. Utterly exhausted, I tilted my head on the side and watched with reddened eyes as a small stream of saliva dribbled down over the edge of my mouth and pooled onto the floor. When fresh air finally made its way into my lungs, it initially choked me nearly as badly as the sheet had. A thump from somewhere behind startled me from my fit. The Jaeger demoness, like a spring-loaded doll, leapt from the floor of the room. The single shot of magic I previously landed in her gut should have done the trick, but the fluid way she moved about made it appear as if she were unfazed by the blast. Within arm's reach of where I had subconsciously curled myself came the splittering sound of unseasoned wood being hewn down by a giant woodcutter's axe. In the following instant, Sister Carnelia came flying through the newly opened hole in the timber door. Here's Carnelia! I can just picture it now. Her arms pliant as whips, she passed by the female Jaeger in a lightning-quick motion, and with a turning assault, clocked her opponent full tilt in the face. Also, wait, it was only recently that they added an axe emoji? Because I remember trying to do an axe emoji, like, long while ago, multiple times, and they never had one. Kirsha. No, sir, you're forgetting, you're not supposed to put a space there. Okay, where was I again? Oh yeah. The woman spun with the force of the blow and fell with a tumultuous thud, her head cracking hard against the floor. Like a prima ballerina, Sister Cornelia raised her knee high until she had it tucked securely against her sternum. She stared down at the... That's fairly recent? Yeah, because I remember trying to type out an axe emoji, but I was like, huh. Of all the generic objects that you would think emojis have, like, they never have an axe? Like, come on. Outstretched figure on the floor, muscles flexed, and without an ounce of mercy, Sister Cornelia let her judgment fall with the heel of her boot, stomping down and crushing the wretched woman's throat. Oh. I mean, I don't know about the death of a friend, but oh god, that woman's not breathing anytime soon. Yeah, no, she dead. A woman like Carnelia, from what you can imagine? Nah. No mercy. I mean, you don't show mercy to Jaegers. That's an unwritten rule, basically. As I witnessed the grotesque and unsightly scene, Sister Cornelia gave me a quick glance in my direction and beckoned beyond. Then, with a nimble hop into the unknown before her, she cleared the broken window frame and lighted to the ground below, quickly scraping my belongings together. I made after her in the same manner. Also, this is 15 pages. Same manner as she left, out the window with a 2-story drop to the cobblestone side road below. Not being one in the past? Yeah. Waiting close by and helping to break my less than elegant fall, Sister Cornelia led me on as we took flight along the avenue, brightly lit by the morning sun. With a deafening blare from an orbital engine's whistle indicated that the first train was about to depart. Sister Carnelia immediately pulled a ticket from out of her coat pocket and held it to me from the side. Reaching for the fluttering strip of paper between her fingers, I realized I was still carrying the bar of soap from before, so I chucked it, not caring where it landed or who it might hit. It was still holding onto the soap. Aboard the train, the smoggy haze from the incessant smoking of the nattering gentleman had permeated into every nook and cranny of the passenger car. There was also the smell of newly printed publications and the occasional sound of someone clearing their throat. It felt rather awkward to have boarded a train bound for Imperial City with my bag still in hand. "Do you know what your problem is, Toby?" Sister Cornelia remarked. "You're just like that Orman of yours." Using her white handkerchief, she staunched the flow of blood from my leg, which had been lacerated by the spinning arrow blades of magic. "Once you get yourself into trouble, you keep digging yourself in deeper until someone comes along with the billy club and whacks some good sense into you." Placing a folded magazine on my lap, she tapped on it with the nail tip of her index finger, indicated that I should read what was inside. It was a copy of the Imperial Chronicle, which had been published just that morning. A several-line article with buried pages behind more titillating news, told of the suspicious death of one Opal factory owner. No! This was the first time I had ever become aware of mixed real age. Sister Carnelia continued her lecture as she mercilessly upbraided me for my reckless behavior. "You missed being caught up in all of this by a hair's breadth," she informed me coolly. At a loss for words over the shock of Mick's death, I put the magazine away in my trench coat. Another 5 minutes in that shop and you would have gone to meet your maker, too. 5 minutes in the shop? Ah. Missed them by just that. God damn. I shook my head with trembling lips, and let my thoughts fumble out of my mouth. I just don't get it. Why did Mick have to die? Images of Mick's cold body behind the counter alternated in my mind without a lump of metal wrapped in scrap paper. Just what the hell had I been carrying all this time? Why did anyone ever have to die over it? I pondered at length. Sister Carnelia met my eyes and held them. "Because it's an artifact," she said simply. "An artifact?" I scoffed as I blew off her answer. It's not like I haven't carried a whole bunch of them before. Artifacts, in short, were the remaining legacy of an ancient civilization and the generic term for any unidentifiable mechanism which resembled that of an ornament. I had spent my days as a courier smuggling any number of those items under the false pretense that the goods I was carrying were nothing more than rare antiques, and readily placed them in the hands of those aristocrats, amongst whom were especially in vogue. And for the most part, my current possession appeared as though it belonged to the same group as the others. Personally, I could find no other value in collecting these artifacts aside from the indulgence of oneself in a decadent hobby. Chiding me as if I were a clueless child, Sister Carnelia rebuked, "You're wrong, Toby. This one's much different than the others." And after a moment's pause, "It's alive." Unable to grasp what she had meant, I looked at her with a questioning expression on my face. Sister Carnelia tried again. "What I'm trying to tell you is that it still works. Although I'm not really sure what kind of power it actually has, it was unearthed during excavation within the Empire's territory about 30 years ago. Sister Carnelia's subsequent story about the peculiar lump of metal told of the dark history surrounding a group of aristocrats who relentlessly sought after it. The artifact itself had transitioned from hand to hand by those in power, as one after another, they were murdered while slumbering in their bedchambers. Then, at the end of the 100 Days' War, its whereabouts were said to have been lost, and strangely enough, it finally turned up in the capital after all this time," she said, finishing up the account. An announcement chimed in the passenger car notifying those of the scheduled time of arrival. Sister Carnelia uncrossed and recrossed her long legs. Toby knows what he wants. The one who is, I mean, this is just me making up stuff. The one who is after that artifact hired that Jaeger corps to bring it to them, whatever the cost. So as the result, I was dispatched by the church in order to protect both you, and it falling into their hands. I sat staring down at the bag resting next to my feet as we approached our destination, and the moving train quietly began to lose speed. Okay, hold on, I need another drink. I can only imagine what more stories they have in the future Legend of Heroes games. In the bowels of the Imperial City, moving purposefully through the crowd, we made our way between the rows of seats. Each time the swinging bag in hand struck the side of my knee, I became keenly aware of its presence. It was an unnerving feeling, quite like I had unintentionally brushed up against someone in an offensive way. Furthermore, it was nearly inconceivable to my mind that the ancient relic the Jaeger corps were pursuing with such a frenzy was sitting right here, inside the stitched cloth of this cheap handbag. What a fool Mick had been. Hadn't he known the burden this object would be one far more weighty than the both of us could have ever hoped to bear? I squeezed my eyes shut against the thoughts flying around my mind and addressed Sister Carnelia, who followed closely behind me. "Will we be making a break for the cathedral once we get off?" "Yes, that was the plan," she answered, scanning the scene outside the window of the passenger car. "I think that's the only option we've got you if you want to make it through this day alive." The station where the train was set to arrive was unremittingly crowded with countless droves of passengers. As usual, the sky was slightly overcast. Everyone outside on the platform stood shivering in silence, with their collars drawn up to their ears, huddling close to one another for warmth like a flock of waterfowl out on the tidelands of midwinter. "Don't worry, I won't be tossing you down a flight of stairs this time, Toby," jested Sister Carnelia. "Although if there are two more of you at my disposal, I might have decided otherwise," she added. Evidently, the numbers in our party this time had seen a rather dramatic increase. Hey, nice. I forgot, is Gray a welfare servant in FGO? Because I know they had the case files event. She's welfare? Ah, okay. I guess the pullable one would be Reigns then. Oh boy, actually, how long do we have until that? I want to pull for her. Oh boy. My courts can't handle this. I mean, it's probably sometime after summer, I believe. At the very least. The odds don't appear to be in our favor, she said in a low voice, her warm breath tickling the lobe of my ear. We won't be able to leave through the ticket gate. It would be quite a while. Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact release date is and, like, how long it would take, but... I mean, that's just more time for me to save up, right? As soon as we stepped off the train, we stealthily moved to the opposite end of the platform, and after sneaking out a large door for only authorized station personnel, we jumped down onto the path of railroad ties and steel rails below. The biting cold wind of the capital swept freely across the unobstructed railroad tracks, causing me to shudder, as if it ruffled our coats with its chilly touch. Slipping between the coupler of a pair of freight cars, we moved cautiously along their edge, sticking close to the shadows. Over onto the cargo platform, workers were busy unloading containers. For someone who had his mindset on becoming a dealer of pilfered goods, getting illicit entry into the station house would be one of the first of all basics. Yep, yeah. Drawing my ticket, I spoke politely to one of the workers, then with a scenario picked out in my head, I sold it to him as I played the part of a manager here on business with a celebrity of notable repute. Midway through our conversation, I introduced Sister Carnelia, who did her best to show the man a glamorous smile and feminine pose. I had possibly gone a bit overboard when I stated that she was an opera singer because because the way that she carried herself made her look more akin to a low-wage sell song in a bar of drunkards. Oh, God, From opera singer to low-wage sell song. Yet in spite of it all, the worker graciously let us through. You're so good at it, it's almost scary, Toby, Sister Carnelia said as we raced through the station's warehouse sector. You should seriously consider doing another job, she went on. The event was April 2019. Wait, does that mean I'm gonna have to wait a year? Well, probably. Well, I seriously wish FGO was on a catch-up schedule. I don't want to wait another year. Like, it's both a blessing and a curse to basically have EX clairvoyance on seeing all the future events and stuff in FGO. Could I handle that? Well, if I was only playing FGO, Grand Blue, and Arc Knights, not Epic 7, or maybe with any other gacha game, then maybe? Although I still am grateful for the regularly scheduled downtime in between events though in FGO, so I don't know. But oh boy. Oh, excuse me. Although I wonder how they handled like seasonal events in FGO and other regions, because I know I believe was it Korea and was it just Korea? Although I heard Korea's not doing so well, although given the controversy, because supposedly Korea FGO, the company that handled that, lowered the rates of acquiring SSR characters or something, or was it 4-star characters? They basically lowered the gacha rates, and people were fucking pissed, and yet they never disclosed that until, or actually no, they had to have disclosed it, right? But yeah, people took notice, and yeah, a lot of people just uninstalled the game. What made this significant, and like actual like, or what made this like important to realize how severe it was. You know the Solomon event when it first came out? You had like the demon pillars that everyone had to fight together and basically farm collectively. So then like thematically, like everyone who played in the region farm together to farm the meters down to 0 to clear the way to the final boss. And, you know, if you didn't get it down to the timer, you know, thematically, the world's dead. Humanity has been incinerated. Game over. You lose. Humanity's done. And, you know, in JP, NA, and maybe some of the other regions, or wherever it is, we all cleared it, like, with time to spare. In Korea, nah, they didn't finish the event. That's how bad it was. When that event's supposed to be the Farm Fest, and that's where, like, people just go ham on farming everything before everyone else, like, finishes up the bosses and everything. Yeah, Korea never finished it. That's how pissed the player base was. Lower gacha rates in the game with already low rates in a market that spends similar to NA. Yeah, whatever Korean company handled the Korean version of FGO, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. You have a very, very famous, like, series and everything, and a series where people whale thousands upon thousands of dollars. You'd be fucking, like, insane to fuck with that, and the goodwill of the customer base, as they're already willing to spend that much money. You lower the rates thinking that, like, they'd still keep everything the same as if nothing had ever happened. No, people will take notice, and that's how they reacted. And I mean, I'm not sure if it has gotten any better. I assume it's just dead. But yeah, it's, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if people were fans of FGO who just went over to other regions. Crazy thing, Korea? Yeah, like with how I would assume, like, people are with gachas in Korea, especially, you know, like looking at how grind heavy some of that stuff is. Yeah, it's possibly people move to JP or NA instead, where it's actually being more fair. So like, they have the option of JP of getting the latest stuff, or NA where they're behind schedule and they can see the earlier stuff they would have missed out on. So you got two good options there. So yeah, it's just appalling to me that something like that has really happened. Like, why the change? Why the greed? Like, it's already inherently greedy as it is, monetization-wise, given the rates and how much people wail with the joke of a pity or safety net FGO has. Like, why mess with the thing that gets you basically millions of dollars? So you can make a couple more? Like... we'll never know what goes on through, like, the, like, higher-ups' minds when going through that decision. But anyway, continuing with the story, though. I bet you're going to tell me to join the Bracer Guild, right? Come on, those guys would turn me down in a heartbeat, I said as I laughed off the thought. Then throwing the idea back in her court, I asked, so how about yourself? Why don't you join a Bracer Guild? Reaching the end of the warehouse sector, we came to a stop in front of the large chain-link fence. Sister Carnelia crouched down, while sliding a drainage cover to the side, and laughed at my previous question as if it were insane. Are you kidding me? They gunned me down the second I set foot in one of their branches. Wait, but she is with the church. Wait, are the church and Bracer Guild at odds with each other? Because, like, I guess if we're going down, like, the more lawful and unlawful scale, like, you have the Bracer Guild and one other, maybe the church has some, like, more unrestricted, like, dealings and stuff in terms of, like, what they're doing in whatever name of the goddess or whatever it is they're trying to do. They're not playing by the rules exactly. So, like, in a way that, like, they're doing good, but still not in the eyes of the law? I mean, since Carnelia said, no, but then it's like, what will the church do with it? Because we still don't know exactly. It's like, yeah, we need to take that ornament to the cathedral, and I need to protect you from the Jaeger Corps, and they're not working with the Bracer Guild. So I wonder if there's like some. I kind of doubt it in like the real like world of Trails, but yeah, just in the story at least. What does the church want? What's their ultimate goal? The winding, narrow stone tunnels, like the one we were in, ran everywhere beneath the capital. We crawled along as the light shining down through the drainage grates on the side of the large road above us illuminated the way like a trail of flickering opal lampposts. The feet of those walking along the avenue passed right by where we were, but not a single person noticed us scraping our way along below them. And for some strange reason or another, the world just beyond the thin flagstone paved road appeared so dazzling in my eyes. Yet the Jaeger Corps' loss of the artifact in hand and a senseless sudden death, all of which had never crossed my mind before, lay in wait for me. Dared I venture into the open world above? As we pressed on, I began to think that the small round tunnel we were crawling through would run on forever, when it suddenly emerged with a high-ceilinged sewer surrounded by walls of countless blocks of chiseled stone. We'll go through here and make our way over to where the cathedral is located, Sister Carnelia insisted. Raising one brow, she pointed her finger upward. It's a lot safer down here than it is up there. That's fine and all, but what are we going to do if he gets attacked? Sister Carnelia grabbed my hand and, with that, stepped into the muddy darkness beyond. Hey, Neil Luke, how you doing? Don't worry, Toby. Don't worry, Toby, she reassured me. Faith isn't the only thing supporting the church. What, is the church basically like its own mercenary thing in disguise? Or other military, like, organization in disguise? Like, what's going on here? Carnelia. The flicker of dying opal lamps mounted at equidistant lengths along the sewer wall sent thin streaks of light across the surface of the rippling flow of filthy sewage. Passing in front of these one by one, Sister Carnelia sped down the stone sidewalk as the sound of her body cutting through the racing tunnel winds trailed out behind her. Church Inquisition? Something like that, maybe. Oh, where was I again? Sped down, stone side, I remember that. Panting and out of breath, I continued to move my feet toward the darkness which lay before me as I chased after Sister Carnelia's flickering shadow. Way-worn and yet without a moment of repose, we headed unrelentingly with our sights set on the Cathedral of the Septian Church. We moved swiftly across the moss-covered stone pavement, the clacking of our heels echoing in the dimly lit underground. Above ground, the walking distance on the city roads from the railway station to the cathedral was about 3 blocks. If we made our way up through the drainage ditch just beyond the sluice gate, we would find ourselves in the public square outside the massive sanctuary. Up ahead, the light of another opal lamp came into view. Turning her head in my direction without a word, Sister Carnelia extended her right hand outward in a wide motion indicating that we would be turning that way at the next corner. Then, as if preparing for something, she rolled both shoulders in a grinding motion and relieved the last of her attention with a pop of the neck. It seemed to me as though she knew all too well what was lurking in the tenebrous conduit ahead. Under the unsteady and sporadic coruscation of light, the body of Sister Carnelia surged around the corner and disappeared from view. 1, 2, 3 went the walloping echoes, followed by the sound of something being rolled into the channel of filthy sludge. As I turned the corner, the first things which leapt into my sight were the contorted figures of 2 men on the ground, whom I barely missed treading on. Damn! Brutally killed people in like 5 seconds. God damn. Sister Carnelia, who was by this time several steps ahead, continued to run at her usual pace as if nothing had happened during the preceding seconds. "It's Carnelia!" came an angry but noticeably wavering voice from behind. I glanced to my rear to locate its source, and there I found a man who had dragged himself from the fecal-filled fecal-filled liquid, now lying next to his dead comrades, yelling with his dying breath as blood leaked out of his open mouth. "Carnelia! She's down here! She's down here!" He managed to croak before falling silent and still. Sister Carnelia paid no attention nor made any effort to look back. I turned my face forward and followed her example. The wall of the conduit leading directly into the sluice gate squared out into an ominous mouth of darkness, seemingly waiting for its unsuspecting next meal. Sister Carnelia gradually slowed her pace to match mine as I, by this time, became completely exhausted and out of breath. It looks like these guys are dead serious about getting their hands on that item this time, she said as she focused her eyes on the darkness before us. Nobody expects. Hold up. So, were those men old friends of yours or something, I inquired? Sister Carnelia turned to face me with her dark and scarlet eyes. Is that what you heard from those bracers the other day? She asked. I nodded my head and questioned her no further. With head slightly turned down, I forced myself onward, eyes fixed on the tips of my boots. Unexpectedly, Sister Carnelia opened her mouth and said, "Do you remember that woman you had a run-in back at the inn?" I nodded slightly. The whole reason I gave up my life as a mercenary is because I didn't want to meet a tragic end like that, she continued. A life of no meaning. Forgotten by all. I looked up at Sister Carnelia, seeing a slight show of emotion in the side of her face. Heard her repeat the same line of words a few times before finishing her thought. If I'm going to cash in my life's chips, that I think it's the best that I fight for something worth fighting for. At least that way I'd be able to leave a legacy of my existence behind. Taking in her words, I ran steadily beside her as I felt a sense of nondescript apprehension slowly begin to creep over me. During the short intervals between breaths, it seemed as if I were hearing the faint sound of sloshing water from behind, which caused me to prick up my ears and turn my head in its direction. So you noticed it too, huh, Toby? Sister Carnelia slowed her step until finally coming to a complete stop. They blockaded us from behind, so there's no turning back now, she said, in the direness of our situation heavy in her voice. We had arrived at the intersection where the conduit we were in and another crossed paths, and just beyond the wide, fetid flow of sewage water before us, I could see the dimly lit sluice gate. I placed my back against the damp bricks of the nearest wall and for a moment tried to catch my breath. They're probably lying in wait for us. Sister Carnelia assessed stolidly after glaring across the flowing sewage of the merged channels, then turning her head to the rear and narrowing her eyes again. And unfortunately, this time we won't be able to circumvent them. With a sound of composure revealing her utmost resolve, Sister Carnelia took in a few deep breaths. As I laid my hand on my orbment, gripping it with the palm of my sweaty hand, and then wrapped the strap of my bag securely around my opposite wrist. As always, Sister Carnelia checked her boots before standing upright. Then taking a few steps back and holding my breath, I raced forward and darted into the Stygian flow of waste. Wait. Ew! Oh god, he's swimming in the sewer water. Oh, oops, wrong one. The Last Stand. Sister Carnelia made such haste as she aimed for the path on the opposite side of the sludge-filled channel that I could have sworn she was actually running on the liquid surface. Actually, wait, I wonder how high the levels are. I wonder if it's just like ankle high or something like that. I don't know. Although it's a channel, so I would assume it's pretty high up with the water levels. Although he said like she was actually running on the liquid surface. So, Based on my observation on the minuscule spatters her feet produced, and of course, she passed by me in the blink of an eye, the space growing wider and wider between us as I continued to trudge my way through the filthy muck. Flashes of magic erupted from the darkness by the sluice gate and ripped through the air in rapid succession, but none of them could overtake the speed at which Sister Carnelia moved. In an unyielding offense by the shadowed aggressors, the settled feculence in the depths of the channel was thrown up in the form of a powerful tsunami. And in the instant before clearing myself from its destructive path, I feared that the terrible wall of sedimented filth would crush me under its weight and bring me into an Wait. A literal shit tsunami. Oh, God. With a mid-air spin to avoid the last of the oncoming magic, Sister Carnelia flew to the opposite side of the channel with incredible speed, hurtling the wall of piled-up sandbags behind which the attackers took cover. She whirled her arms in a ferocious onslaught, one by one, like rows of pins being struck by a weighted object. The line of standing Jaegers crumbled to the ground. Sister Carnelia's attacks were like a whirlwind of death, blurry with the speed at which they struck. They came in advancing at inconceivable angles, puncturing throats, slashing open arteries, and then they were gone. So it was that when I finally reached the cobbled path beyond the stagnant channel, not a soul was left standing besides Sister Carnelia and myself. Man, Sister Carnelia, she is so badass. Like, she has no signs of trouble or struggling in any of these battles, huh? Just what is she? I mean, we kind of, no, there's still a bit of mystery to her. The cathedral is at the end of the ladder, just beyond this gate, she indicated as she flicked dripping blood from her fingers like a child who forgot a handkerchief to dry her wet hands. Her eyes shone with the afterglow of battle. The Jaegers can't be far behind, so we'd better hurry, she warned. As if to punctuate her warning, the damp sound of numerous feet kicking up water as they advanced toward our present location now had become clearly audible to my ears. Stepping over the handful of Jaeger corpses lying scattered about behind the wall of sandbags, we made our way for the dry bed channel which lay before us. I placed my hands on the slightly damp stone floor of the empty channel and crawled through the half-open door of the sluice gate. The falling water droplet struck the nape of my neck as I passed through the cramped opening, causing me to stop dead in my tracks. In the moment that followed, I recognized the sound of an ornament overhead, on the verge of discharging a burst of magic. Toby! Came the ostensible voice of Sister Carnelia as my vision was instantly flooded with a wave of exceeding brightness. Did we get solar flared? Then, in the midst of this world of blinding light, came the hand of a savior which grabbed me firmly by the shoulder. The powerful feeling of being dragged by and the explosion produced by magic rupturing stone were almost simultaneous. As the booming roar swept across the whole of my body, I was thrown backwards toward the ground. Despite my clouded vision, I managed to somersault before landing in a prone position, choking on the filthy puddle I'd fallen face down. Ew. I lifted my head. Excuse me. Oh, sucks for him though. I lifted my head in time to see a cloud of blackened dust being heaved from the mouth of the halfway raised sluice gate door. As if my worst nightmare had now become reality, I watched as one after another the blockading Jaegers emerged from a smoky cloud, each bearing a glinting blade. You can almost smell the sewer from the book. I floundered about on the slippery mud and watched as their ranks sprang into action and closed in, their rugged facial features now visible to my eyes. Instantly rolling to the side, I unsheathed my hidden blade as I attempted to deflect a wide arcing slash of another with my bag. That is just asking to have them cut off your bag and then running off with it, dude. The cloth of the bag over which the sharp edge ran split open. Yeah. You know, I'd feel it'd be smarter to get like a very small bag that you can just like tie around your chest or behind your back, under your clothes. So that like if anyone tries to, I mean they could slash at your chest and stuff, I mean by the time that happens you're already dead. But like, yeah, wouldn't it be smarter to like try to find a bag or something that you can secure around your chest instead? So that like, that wouldn't happen without having to worry about a freaking bag while you're trying to fight for your life, you know? Oh, well, I mean, if you keep thinking about it, we wouldn't really have much of a story now, will we? Frantically, I searched for the orbment at my side, but I was unable to get a grip on it because of my clumsy, panic-stricken state. One of the mercenary men, his eyes intent on my throat, drew his long sword to end my life. But before he could make his move, a dark silhouette appeared behind him. It was Sister Carnelia. Her hands, moving with such finesse, disarmed the man in an instant, and left only his sword behind before he was launched into view into the hanging shadows veiling the dank conduit. As the sound of the falling sword struck the ground with a high-pitched clank, Sister Carnelia dropped to her knees. Her soft whispered words were full of regret. "I'm sorry, Toby." With her head bowed forward, I watched in disbelief as several streaks of blood began to run down the side of her face. "It looks like the goddess may be calling you home too," she said gently. "Aw no, Carnelia!" Once again, Sister Carnelia rose to her feet, her coat hanging in tatters, eyeing her outer garment's ragged state. I knew for certain that it had been caused by the previous blast of magic. In order to protect me from harm, Sister Carnelia had willingly used her body as a shield to absorb the brunt of the force. And now a stain of evanescing crimson blood had begun to seep through the cloth covering her breast. I swiped up the artifact which tumbled to the ground from the hole in my severed bag and tore away the wet paper which covered its surface. Then, with the cold lump of metal in hand, I placed it atop my orbment as I gripped them both tight together. Oh, is it? Don't tell me this kind of orbment's like some kind of like magic healing one where don't tell. Oh my god, it's gonna be like that, isn't it? Is it gonna play that cliche? The sound of footfall. I almost said football. The sound of footfall from the Eager Corps had by now subsided. They stood in a cluster with their swords drawn, effectively blocking any possible escape to the sluice gate. Sister Carnelia let out a shrill cry, and I, as if taking the sound to be a command to attack, unleashed the energy pent up within my orbment. The device. Oh, is it an amplifier? The device roared, and at the instant the magic was discharged, I felt an intense wave of searing heat graze over my cheeks as my entire body was blown backwards by its powerful force. Stunned, I collapsed onto the floor. When I finally opened my eyes, I could see Sister Carnelia standing above me with her back turned to face me. Her right arm had lost all strength to function and hung limply at her side. Dazedly, she slid to her knees and slumped onto the ground before me. I pulled Sister Carnelia close to myself and, hugging her tightly, blasted the pack of assailing mercenaries with an instantaneous wave of magic. But then it was all over. My last stand ending as soon as it had begun. Countless razor-sharp swords stared down at us from all sides. Convinced that I had finally reached my life's terminus, I raised my right hand while placing a false hope in my orbment that it could somehow protect us. I activated it, the last of its energy being consumed as it was drained to empty. Whirling arrow blades spun around us as I closed my eyes and accepted my fate. And behind my darkened eyelids, an endless realm of whiteness began to spread out before me. A legacy never to be forgotten. I was swallowed by the light, only to be spewed moments later onto a patch of hardened ground. The air was filled with the scent of sun-baked earth, yet for being the floor of some grandiose heavenly estate inherited by those in the afterlife, it felt like the flagstones I had grown accustomed to in my past life. Upon feeling around in my immediate surroundings, my searching hand found soft locks of disheveled hair. It seemed as though Sister Carnelia had come as well as I to meet our creator firsthand. Gradually, as I lay there, I felt something warm swell within the pit of my stomach. Weary and spent, I just let the feeling spread over me. It was at this time the sound of murmurous voices started to fill the air around us. Warm breath tickled across my nose and brow, letting me know that I was being stared at directly in the face. As my eyes adjusted to the intensity of the light, I realized I was looking at the face of a young girl who beamed back at me brightly with the widest of smiles. However, she seemed a bit young to hold the esteemed position of the goddess. The knell of the bell overhead rang out loud and clear. Strangely, it sounded exactly like the cathedral's distinctive toll. Taking in this series of events to be rather odd, I picked myself up and at last awakened from the dream which had temporarily invaded my senses. There it was, the familiar cityscape, sounds, and even the scent of the breeze. I knew the place by heart. It was the public square of the Imperial City, which unfolded before the grand cathedral of the Sethian Church. I opened my fingers of my right hand and stared down at the metallic lump in its palm, entrusted to me by Mict. Golden filaments of light swirled across the surface of the artifact. I instantly recalled Sister Carnelia's words. "It's alive," she had said, as I watched the ancient light gradually fade away before closing my hand around the surface once more. I believed it. Supporting each other by wrapping our arms around one another's shoulders, Sister Carnelia and I hobbled and limped our way toward the magnificent cathedral as the awe-inspiring figure of the goddess Aidios stood silently with unfurled wings, watching over us from the deep-hued stained glass window above. As for the events which followed, they were all settled in an orderly fashion. The metallic lump which Sister Carnelia had daringly risked her life for was turned over to His Eminence, the Cardinal, who presided over the cathedral. He disappeared with it, through the thick open door of a sacred vault. The level of corruption which had spread like a plague among the members of the imperial court, influential aristocrats, and even commissioned officers in the imperial army astonished even those mediators acting on behalf of the Bracer Guild. I stayed by Sister Carnelia as she was laid out on a pew within the chapel of the cathedral. The Rio sisters of the church delicately pulled off her coat and cut open her vest, now stuck to her body with dried blood. Upon doing so, they found an ornate shirt with chainmail just beneath the layer of her clothing, which for some reason seemed to bewilder them all. Yeah, I guess like that no one else knows about like what her role is in the church. I was like, why is the sister wearing chainmail? I was like, huh. Well, at least she came prepared, but that must be awkward. The next day, a certain aristocrat who had hired the Jaeger Corps to carry out his selfish bidding agreed to relinquish the artifacts in his possession in return for keeping his estate. Hence, his collection of forbidden antiques were brought under safekeeping of the Sethian Church. Sworn to secrecy, I made immediate arrangements to take leave for the Calvary Republic. My destination, a high-class resort, which turned out to be an excellent way to recover physically and mentally. Sweet, I get a vacation! As well as forget about the series of events which occurred over the past few days. Naturally, the braces assigned to provide my escort were none other than Clayton and Pavel, who, before we left, guided me without a word to where Sister Carnelia was resting. I talked with Sister Carnelia, who had awoken for a short interval, but as I got up to leave, she reached out her dainty hand and said to me, "Before you go, I want to tell you my real name. It's Ein. Ein Selnet." I took her unblemished hand in mine and gripped it firmly, as I expressed my appreciation for what she had done. And today, now 3 years later, staring at her name once again, but this time printed on a page of the Imperial Chronicle, Ein Selnet. Below those lines ran the few lines of an embellished article. Yesterday, a corpse was discovered in an urban area of the capital just before dawn. The body was found to be covered with multiple stab wounds. The departed in life had been involved in charitable work and brought salvation to many afflicted souls in various regions throughout the land. As I read the last line, I envisioned the deceased figure of Sister Carnelia lying motionless upon a darkened street. Aw, come on! Don't do this to me! You can't just kill off Sister Carnelia like that. Oh, come on! Yet, despite the blood-stained face I envisioned in my mind, I saw her as she rested in peace. A gentle smile crossing her face, vindicated of any transgressions in life. As I rolled up the copy of the magazine in hand, I brushed my hand lightly across the shining bracer emblem pinned. Oh, he did become a bracer! Oh! Almost 2 years had passed since I converted to my new line of work, which Sister Carnelia so graciously recommended to me, and finally I had even become used to using my real name. Toby, came the whisper of Sister Carnelia as it resurrected in my ears. Now only known as Toby, I pressed my forehead against the cold, clouded window of the passenger car, the refulgent eyes of Sister Carnelia shining brightly like a carnelian stone, forever ingrained in my memory. In my mind's eye, as I watched her coat sleeves trailed out behind her, and she dashed away into the darkness of my memories, Opening my eyes, I gazed out through the window glass, and there, I saw the bleeding rouge-colored illumination of the Imperial City as it faded away beneath the heavy white fog. The end. Aw, man, man, that's kind of bittersweet. That was a lot of reading, huh? Oh, but man, I feel sad about Carnelia passing or getting murdered. So this is the office. Wow. Indeed. Shall we make a grand entrance and shock the ambassador into silence? Wheeler can totally cut you in half, you know. I apologize for the wait. Lord Craynog will see you now. Let's go then. Welcome to the Erebonian Embassy, guests. I'm Lord Davil Craynog, the duly appointed ambassador and voice of the Empire in this land. I'm Estelle Bright of the Bracer Guild. Zin Vathik, also of the guild. I'm Chloe Rin, second-year student at Genesis Royal Academy and assistant to the Bracers. And I am the servant of love and peace, Olivia Lenheim. Ugh. You. I heard you've gone missing in Elmo Village. Try not to worry Mueller further, Olivia. Or me, for that matter. Such strict dressing down. Much more and I'll have to lose my jacket. Aw, come on! Setting that aside, you were here to inquire about the threatening letter, yes? What do you want to know? Oh, okay, I'll be direct, sir. Do you have any idea who might be behind the letter? Is there anyone in the Empire who might be opposing the sign of the pact? My, you are direct, young Bracer. I appreciate that. I can tell you truthfully, however, that I can think of no such person. His Majesty is very happy with the pact as it stands, in fact, and no one within the Empire would be foolish enough to gainsay his leadership. On such a matter, of course. Yeah, I bet. So you think it's the work of someone outside of the Empire, then? What other answer could there be? If you want my opinion, it's the opposition party in Calvard behind all this. Some silly ploy to make the president look bad, no doubt. Opposition, doing whatever it pleases, is the perfect example of the fallacies of mob rule. I have to question that, your lordship. Don't get me wrong, our major political parties beat each other over the head anytime they can, but even if the pact fell apart due to this, I don't think anyone could blame it on President Rocksmith. Details. You think the mob thinks like that? Bah! All I can say for certain that the person issuing these threats cannot be from our empire. That should be more than enough assurance for you. Well, excuse me, Lord Craynog. May I ask what Chancellor Osborne's opinion of the non-aggression pact is? What? Huh. Flawless riposte, Chloe. Who? The highest appointed official of our most glorious and august imperial government. The Blood and Iron Chancellor, Gileath, Osborne. The Blood and Iron Chancellor. Okay. His nickname comes from his personal motto: our nation's peace must be built on a foundation of blood and iron. He has overseen the expansion of the rail system as well as the annexation of several smaller states on our borders through, less than diplomatic means. Annex? Wait, you mean he... Olivia! How can you criticize your empire's chancellor? Well, I mean, he did just kind of roll up and, it's either you become part of us or you die. Oh, but Davil, how was I criticizing? I simply stated the facts. Facts and logic. But come now, wouldn't hurt to be a little more more cooperative, no? We've already spoken with the lovely, Ambassador Cochrane over at the Calvardian Embassy. It was quite helpful, you see. What? Why, if we don't help these people now, it would give them cause to doubt the character of Erbonia. That would be a tragedy, won't you agree? My Lord Cranon, there's no need to keep information related to this hidden. I humbly suggest that being open in this case would not present a problem. You have a point, Mueller. Very well. To answer your question, Miss Chancellor Osborne, like His Majesty is most receptive to this pact. In fact, I hear he's actually the one who suggested His Majesty should sign it. Really? That's because he was looking forward to getting the engine, right? No, apparently he recommended it to His Majesty before any mention of the engine. If anything, I'm glad there's harmony at home over this pact. There's been no pressure for us to negotiate. I hate to say it, but Estelle, it's looking like there's really isn't any chance it's someone from the Empire. Yeah, it looks that way. Ambassador, thanks a lot for answering our questions. See? It is as I said. If you're looking for the guilty party, you should look elsewhere. Oh, but one second. If you don't mind, we have one more question. Asked about Ren's parents. Ah, yes, a most pitiable situation. The separation of a child from her parents. Imperial traders do visit the embassy at times, but a merchant from Crossbell? I do not recall such a man, no. Are you familiar with this Hayworth Mueller? No, I've never heard the man either. Really? Aw. Well, this is starting to look kinda grim. To search for both a blackmailer and a lost child's parents sounds most trying. It may seem trite, but I do wish you luck, young lady. Thanks, Mr. Lord Cranog. Allow me to show you the gate, then. But before that, you know about Gambler Jack? The path of the Bracer continues to prove itself a harsh one indeed. Several months ago, I received reports concerning the Bracer Guild. Various branches have been attacked in my country, one after the other. Given that you braces yourselves, I fear that you may be an easy target for whoever is responsible. I wish you and your fellow braces well. Do not lose hope. Yeah, they've been getting hit all over the place in other countries. Liberal is relatively safe-ish. But for how long? The other countries have been getting their... I mean, I would guess they're trying to get rid of the Bracer Guild by just eliminating them outright. Thanks, Mueller. Talking with the ambassador was a big help. No, you don't need to thank me. I didn't do anything important, really. Besides, this is a problem affecting all of our nations. We should be working together. Ha! Indeed. I do hope we can solve this. Olivier knows something. Unless he wants to hit on Mueller again. Olivier, you're awfully quiet. It's nothing. I was simply lost in reverie. Oh, for fuck's sake. It doesn't concern our current business. Pay me no mind. Okay. Olivier, you will be staying here in the embassy in the evenings while you're here in Granso, yes? Huh, where else? I would not miss the chance to have more sweet dreams in your bed as a... Oh my god! Olivier, you shut the fuck up! Oh my god! What? Oh my. Stop with the jokes before you give the ladies too many ideas and images. Push those jokes too far and I may have to spear you upon the embassy's flagpole. That is the direction I should approach from. You teach me more every day. Oh my god. Alternatively, I could just cut you in half right here. I'm fairly sure I could explain to Lord Cranog. That would be rather less lovely, forgive the joke, my friend. So that's how you keep Olivia in control. Maybe I should write this down. I'd say they match each other perfectly myself. That's a terrifying thought. Well, regardless, I shall pardon myself here. Good luck with the rest of your investigation. Thanks again, Mueller. Oh my god, take a shot for every single time Olivia hits on Mueller. Okay, Looks like we still got some daylight to burn still. How about we put the liberal news aside for a moment and go to Granso Castle instead? After you. Okay, let's see, has anything changed here? Nah, I guess like not enough meaningful progress has occurred for people to really change their daily routines. So I guess we're safe for now. Alright then, over to liberal news. Also, how's my... wrong one. How's my Sepith looking like? Right. Because I really need to get more space Sepith. I don't understand why they... I mean, they could just not thought about it, but I really wish you can exchange Sepith for another kind. Like, I wish I could just convert some into water or space or something like that. Ah, well. Alright. So after all that reading and stuff earlier, I really need to go take a break and use the restroom, so I'm gonna be right back.